okay? All right, so today our topic is maximizing your milk expression, okay, with the advanced double electric breast pump or the pump that you may have. Now, the features and what I'm gonna go over may or may not work with the pump you have. Again, I'll explain why these things are important, okay? Pumping does not need to be so hard, even though if you know what you're doing and you have the right pump for you yourself, it does not need to be so hard, although so many moms struggle with it. Now, of course, it's not exactly the same as nursing your baby. We all know that the pump will never really get out as much as the baby in most cases. But for the most part, the reason why this is the case is that the baby knows exactly what to do. The pump doesn't know what to do typically. And so you need to know what to do in order to control it in a way to customize it and help yourself to get those letdowns of milk. And what do we mean by that when we say letdowns of milk? When you first start to nurse your baby or you put your pump on, that letdown is going to happen within a minute or so of the baby starting to suck. The same thing should happen with your breast pump. You're stimulating the milk to release or a milk expression. And when you do that, you're going to be doing that by triggering a hormonal reflex. So when the baby sucks or the pump goes on, you're stimulating your nerves to release a hormone in your brain called oxytocin. And that oxytocin is going to cause the little muscle cells around the milk sacs in your breast to contract and push the milk down towards the nipple. Then it's ready for it to release, okay? It doesn't just suck the milk out. The baby's not just sucking the milk out. The pump is not just sucking the milk out. So the key to getting a maximum release of milk is triggering that hormonal response, all right? And that's very, very important to understand, because without that, you're going to struggle to get that milk to flow, to really, really flow, all right? So important, one is you need to not be in pain. And we talked about this last week. Pain will stop or will actually stop that letdown reaction. It'll stop the hormonal release. Being cold, being stressed, being nervous, all those different things can really stop the milk from flowing well, all right, and from getting that hormone to release. So you want to be very relaxed. You want to be comfortable, all right, and that's super important. And so when we talk about what are the most important features, again, we discussed it last week, what are the most important features on your breast pump? Number one is to make sure that the flange, okay, is fitting properly and that they're as comfortable as you can be, all right? So having a good fit, and also on the Evenflo, you'll see that there's actually a soft flange. When we have a nice, soft, comfortable flange, we will get more comfort, and then we will get that hormone to release as well. And you don't need to turn the suction up really, really high to do that. You need to stimulate in the right way, okay? So that's what we're gonna talk about today, is how do we stimulate the breast in order to get that first release of milk or that first letdown, but then also how to get more than one letdown. That means a second letdown, a third letdown, a fourth letdown. Moms can have multiple letdowns of milk in one pumping session, and these can happen pretty quickly. If you can stimulate the milk to release multiple times, you're gonna get more milk out in a shorter amount of time, which is how you maximize this. It's also the most important thing, because that's essentially what this pump is for. The pump is here to get your milk out when you can't be with your baby. That means to, one, have enough to bring home for your baby if you're away or if you're separated, and two, to maintain your milk supply by continuing to express as much as possible. So there could be nothing more important about your breast pump than knowing how to get multiple letdowns of milk and get as much out as you possibly can while you're pumping. All right, and fast. We want this to happen quickly. I know a lot of you are working and you don't have a ton of time to sit and waste. Okay, nobody has time to waste on this, and pumping is something that shouldn't take too long. Let's discuss how, when we talk about your baby. Okay, we were just saying, the baby knows what to do. So when you put your baby on, the baby instinctively knows how to suck. Typically knows how to change their sucking patterns throughout the feeding session in order to stimulate those multiple letdowns. When I look at how to use your pump to stimulate those multiple letdowns. What I'm thinking is I've looked at the baby and said, let's try to mimic as close to what the baby's doing with your breast pump. And when you look at your baby, this is what's typically happening. The baby will suck really, really quickly right at the beginning of a feeding. That's stimulating that hormone release that we just discussed to get that first letdown of milk. They're sucking quickly, but they're not sucking hard. It's very gentle sucking. Then as the milk starts to come out, you'll see the baby start to slow down. The jaw will drop in between the sucks and you'll see a slowing, and you'll usually hear a gulping sound. That's milk going down into the baby, okay? The baby will suck harder at that point, but slower. And then a few minutes after that, or into the feeding, you'll notice that the baby starts to suck faster again, but they're not letting go of the suction, how much suction they have. They're just going faster. What they're doing is stimulating a second release, a third release, a fourth release. And if you watch your baby, if you're nursing, I want you to do this. Watch the baby and take a look and see now, with that knowledge that they're doing that, if you can identify when that second release happens and when that third release happens, because now that you know what you're looking for, you will see it when your baby is nursing. So how do we do that with the pump? Okay, and let's look at it for a minute. Okay, so this is the Evenflo Advanced Double Electric Breast Pump. Again, this pump is meant for everyday use. This pump can be used in double expression or single. And when you do that, you want to make sure that you have a really, really good fit on your flange, and it comes with 3 sizes included, which is excellent. Makes it very easy to size this, and there are 3 additional sizes in case one of those don't fit. But then if you can see here, you can see there's controls on this pump. And that's one of the things that I really want you to pay attention to, is when you're looking at your pump, that you get a pump with not only multiple controls in speed and multiple controls in suction, but also independent controls. Okay, that's really key here. Having independent controls will allow you to customize how you are using your settings. If you have, if you don't have a lot of settings, if you're unable to control it, it's going to be really hard to stimulate your letdowns the way I'm about to show you, okay? And so you want to have independent speed and suction controls. When you're using your pump, you want to make sure that you are starting with the right size, and then put the pump up to your breast and turn the suction down low, okay, and turn the speed all the way up. That's how you want to start your feedings. When you're pumping with the speed, start pumping with the speed all the way up and the suction down low. After a minute or so, you'll start to see milk starting to drip into the bottle, okay, into the milk collection container here. And as soon as you start to see the milk starting to drip, you'll know that you just got a hormonal release. You just got your milk to start letting down. At that point, what I want you to do is take your controls. And so this here is the speed here, and this is the suction, okay? And so as soon as you see the milk starting to flow, what you're gonna do is turn your speed about halfway down and turn your suction up as high as you can go without feeling any pain, all right? You should not feel any pain at all. It doesn't have to go all the way up. In fact, most likely you won't be going all the way up, and especially with this pump, it's very, very strong here. You don't wanna go all the way up. You're going to the point, you're going to the setting that you can feel, but it's not causing any pain, all right? And so you put the suction up, you turn the speed down. Then you allow yourself to continue to pump. Milk will start to pour into the bottle, okay? And that's how you'll know that you're having that expression phase right there. As the milk is flowing, you'll be relaxing, you'll be doing some deep breathing, you try not to watch the bottles, maybe take a look at your baby, look at a picture of your baby. That will help that milk to continue to flow. And then at a certain point, you'll see that it starts to slow down. All right, that doesn't mean that the pumping session is over. That means it's time to stimulate the second letdown. All right, so now here's where the tricky part, or this is the part you want to pay attention to. So we know how to stimulate the first letdown, but that second letdown, you're not going back to the same settings that you started with. All right, and this is where when you have a pump that may have like a a button that says letdown, you know, and what it does is it actually does it for you. Typically, it'll go to a setting that is not necessarily the right one for you. Plus, it will adjust both the speed and the suction when you push that button. With this pump, what you're doing is your speed is halfway down, your suction's up, and to stimulate that second letdown, all you're going to do is turn your speed back up again. Okay, turn your speed all the way back up again, leave the suction where it was, but turn your speed all the way up. By doing that, you're simulating what the baby would do, okay? And that way you're gonna get that second letdown of milk. You don't want to release the suction at that point. Continue with the speed a little bit higher until you see the milk starting to flow again, and then turn your speed down halfway. So that's what you're going to do to get your second, your third, your fourth. All right. That means after that first letdown, you're only going up and down with your speed, up and down with your speed to stimulate more letdowns. That's the part that most people do not know. And when they try this, it really works like a charm. I mean, it works so much better. You have to be able to work with your body to do this. This is a technique that I designed and named my 3-stage pumping method. I do have a video that will show you exactly how this works too, so that you can jump back in and learn some more. If you go to my website, mybabyexperts.com, or just go to my profile, you can click on the link in my profile and it will take you there. But there's a method called their 3-stage pumping method, and that's what I'm describing here. All right, so hopefully that helps, and that gives you all the information that you need, at least to know how to use those adjustable speed and suction on your pump. Let's answer a few questions here that I see coming in. Does the amount of letdowns depend on the person? Yes, absolutely. Everybody's different, of course, okay? And we're talking about bodily functions here, right? So the mechanism in which milk lets down is the same. Our physiology is the same. But from person to person, how much milk they make, how often they would need to feed so that breast capacity, how many letdowns a person will have, everyone's different, okay? But the mechanism in which you do it is the same. So I would just assume that you can stimulate multiple letdowns. You just need to work with your body to do that. Now, that may take a little bit of practice. So if you're trying to do this and you're like, oh, I can't get it, don't get frustrated. Pumping is something that is not innate to us, and it does take practice to learn how to use it. But with more practice and getting more used to your pump, you will be able to do that. Again, as long as you have a pump that functions well. Not all the pumps are the same. Unfortunately, I hate to tell you that, but they're just not all the same. If you're not getting letdowns, if the milk is not coming out and you can feel that the breast has milk in it, then most likely I would look to either your control settings or the sizing of your flange. If your flange is not sized well, you're going to feel uncomfortable, but also you're not going to get the milk out. So if you're not getting multiple letdowns, I would look at the sizing and as well as the controls, okay?